so we can catch both our voices. So if you want to start off with a little introduction on who you are, what you do, what's your expertise.
Sure.
Go
So
on.
I'm Drew Stoker. I've been a developer, software engineer and designer, product designer for about the last 10 years. I work particularly with fashion brands, and most of the work I do is a mix of digital and working in store, so getting technology into physical spaces.
What's your experience with Farfetch and the Store of the Future?
So Farfetch I joined around 2.5 years ago, when they had a concept for working. They have a number of boutiques, and they saw that they have all this data online on their marketplace, and then if they could somehow manage to get any data from customers in their physical boutiques, merge that together would be fantastic. So I came in as part of this to flesh out that concept and then to start building a beta version of that store.
And how would you define that store of the future?
How would I define it?
Like, what does it look like? What does it entail?
Oh, okay, so that specific version, Farfetch's version of Store of the Future. So it doesn't look particularly different to any retail store that you would go in. The real kind of the magic with Farfetch is that because they have so many customers' data who shop on their website, that they can just merge, getting these digital touch points in a store, merge that in a platform, like in a data center, and then can really offer a much more personalized view to a customer of products they might be interested in, whether they're in store, in a physical store, or online, and then also for things like supply chain management, it's fantastic because they know which customers are buying when, things like this, down to a personal level.
And what is your...
Check that it's...
It's running.
It's fine. Okay,
I think
good.
it's running. Yeah. Let's keep it like this, just in case. What is your personal opinions on that? The effectiveness of applying those things. Your general opinion on how effective it is to introduce tech within physical retail spaces.
I think it's got the potential to be, a real game changer, as in the way we shop could be completely different. I think it could really help reduce waste as far as things like in the supply chain management, which is fantastic. There's obviously the incredibly scary side of it, which is what we all worry about, which is data and privacy around data, and that's where it gets very hazy, and that's was always something that I was very conscious of designing this Store of the Future, that actually we have access to a lot of customer information, and with the rules around it are still quite open, and that you can actually manipulate a lot of it without informing consent to hold, quite a lot of the time.
That's actually one of my next questions. Are any of these efforts affected by the new data protection?
Yeah, they
Acts?
absolutely they have been, but there's always ways around it, and the way around it, so that sounds quite negative, and it's not at all. It's just you have to really make sure that you're offering customers something beneficial. It's something that they want, they choose to opt into it, and so that's kind of the approach that we took at Farfetch, that this might not be for everyone, what we're building, and if you don't want the experience, just don't sign up to it. So that's how we sort of got around those laws.
How do you get people to consent to those things implicitly? How do you make them aware of that?
Was honestly the very biggest challenges we faced, which was the adoption.
Yeah.
So we had a big leg up, which is just that it was a beta version. Obviously, as you saw, there's a lot of press around it and people get very excited about it. So that really helped us say, people often would go, oh, yep, I'll sign up to this just because I want to experience Farfetch's Store of the Future, rather than really looking into what they were signing up for, which comes down to things like image recognition and using, people's image and things like this, and then tracking what they've done in store and looking at their online data and things. So this is that adoption piece was always the biggest issue, and
Right.
I think the press really helped, to be honest, on that.
Does this? Maybe this question is not. Does this contribute to the concept of the omni-channel retail model of merging online with physical?
Yeah, absolutely. From kind of one of the people who really set up Store of the Future at Farfetch was Sandrine Devaux, and she came from being the head of omnichannel for Harvey Nicks. So that's really what her experience was and how she did set the business up to kind of capitalise on omnichannel and her understanding of that.
Have you seen any changes in store models while adapting technology into them?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that became much more prevalent was more about the showroom model, and that's certainly was something that became very interesting as we were developing Store of the Future. You sort of realise that actually it's the point of purchase isn't as important, specifically in the UK. I'm talking about when you go into Asian markets, it gets quite different, because it's things around people like to be seen for the bags and things like this. But it was something that we really wanted to try, was having a space in store that actually you purchase and just walk out, and you don't need to take any of your shopping or anything with you, because it will be delivered at your home within 90 minutes, for example.
In your experience, what are the main tools being used in retail? What, any future trends on technology applied to?
Yeah, we used RFID an awful lot, and I think that's something that's obviously it's super common. It's been around for such a long time, but I think now, I'm not sure if it's just the popularity of retail in tech, if readers have got much cheaper and much better. So RFID was really a big one, and then as much kind of the boring side of it more so. Things like CRM. So when triggered and personalised emails based on what you've done in store was really popular, and then obviously you've got things like in-store apps, which was obviously grown rapidly.
Yeah. What do you think about the use of AR, for example? I think Zara was doing a campaign on certain stores where they you bring your phone and they have like hotspots around their stores. Do you think that's like a gimmick, or do you think that it adds to the experience? Or?
I think one of the biggest things, and it comes down to a puppy. It's my boss, David.
Hi,
Hi, how you doing? Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
But I knew Drew would like to see little Coco. She's a bit asleep after lunch. Say hi.
You're gonna have a look. Ah, hello there.
This is Drew. What's your name?
Michelle.
This is Michelle.
Hello. It's so cute.
There you go. Say hi to Michelle. Say hi to Drew.
Interrupted your meeting.
No. It was well worth it.
Puppy priority.
Gorgeous. What is it? Is it a cocktail?
Half Cavalier, half Bichon Frise.
Not Cavalier,
Cavachon.
Cavalier.